Carol Decker, welcome to 36 Radio. Thank you for giving up your time. It's very good of you.
Pleasure.
Just like to start at the very beginning, if I may, and the formation of Tapowen, how it all came about.
Right, okay. I'll try and keep it brief because it's a long time ago. Well, I had always enjoyed singing, been able to sing, and I was in the choir, and although I'm not particularly religious, I did used to like going to church to sing in the churches because they're really beautiful and all the harmonies were gorgeous. So I always really enjoyed singing under sort of most circumstances. But I'd never thought of it as a career because you're supposed to get a proper job, aren't you? And I went to girls' grammar school, O-levels, A-levels, all that. So when I was 22, I went back to art college. I decided as a mature student, I was kind of going from job to job, really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went to art school, and in that eclectic environment, I met a different kind of person because I had gone to a very straight girls' grammar school, it was all the sciences and classics and stuff. And I was singing along to the radio all the time when we were sketching, and somebody actually did say, as a sort of half joke, but I think she meant it, can you stop annoying us all and go and join a band and get it out of your system, And so she invited me to a party, and I met this guy who's a guitarist, and they were looking for a singer. This is in Shrewsbury, in Shropshire in the early 80s. So I auditioned for their band in a garage. So I was in a garage band, and I was 22 years old, which is positively geriatric. You're coming to the end of your pop career, really, by the time you're 22 now. And formed a local band. And then Ronnie Rogers, who was my boyfriend for 13 years, he was in another local band. So we started to see each other personally. Then he left his band, joined my band, and we took over the writing for that band, which we then called the Lasers, which was our first band. And then we decided to split from that band and just focus on writing. And so we got ourselves a little home studio set up, 4-track recording, and my dad lent us some money for keyboards and stuff. And we just started making demos and sending them away. And it took a long time, actually. We always got the kind of thanks but no thanks letters from the record companies. And then finally, we got a reply from a label called Siren, they were a subsid of Virgin. Mm-hmm. And they said, come on down, we'll put you into a rehearsal studio and you can showcase. Well, of course, we didn't have a band. So we're going, yeah, right, let's go. We'll be there. What time? Yeah, see you then. We don't have a band. So we recruited a couple of people who we knew locally who'd come into our studio to make their demos because we made a bit of money on the side by Ronnie engineering other young bands, And we'd got some management in London, and he said, there's a drummer and a guitarist, try these two guys. So we literally pulled a band together in a day. And we did this audition, and I knew it was almost my last chance. And the keyboard player didn't turn up till like 30 minutes before the record company were due to show. And I didn't know him. He was just like, yeah, my mate will play keyboards, don't worry about it. I've sent him the tapes. He'll have learnt it all. But I'd never met the guy. And so I'm actually just almost apoplectic with anxiety. And this guy turns up, and I wanted to kill him. This is my big break, and I wanted to murder him. And good old Scotty, and he just nailed it. And I then went on to discover he was the most accomplished multi-instrumental guy, fantastic guitarist, bass player, keyboard player, you name it, So he did us a great favour just jumping in for half an hour to do this showcase. And we finally got a record deal. And so that band was then Taj Waskowski, the guitarist, Tim Burgess on drums, Michael Chetwood on keyboards, who we knew from Shropshire, Paul Jackson, who we knew from Shropshire, on bass, Ronnie on rhythm guitar, and me. And that was the band. And the next thing we know, we're flying out to Chicago to do our first album, Bridge of Spies, with Roy Thomas Baker, who did all the Queen albums. So it was just amazing. We went from all being on the dole or in dead-end jobs, to all of a sudden we're just being jetted out to... Because when it happens, it really happens. It just doesn't happen very often. It's still a really tough business to break into, and it took me 6 years to get the right person to get me in what I do.
That must have been quite frustrating to go through so many years of, the knockbacks and the rejection letters and things. How did you get through all of that?
I cried a lot, drank a lot, but I always drink a lot. There were times when I just thought it wasn't going to happen, but you sort of pick yourself up the next day and you carry on. Because failure was not an option, because I didn't fit into what I call civvy street. I'd completely messed up my A-levels. If you're listening to this, kids, don't do what I did. So I'd messed up my A-levels. So I was going from dead-end job to dead-end job. I didn't have a plan. And I wanted to make my life extraordinary. I just knew I couldn't do the 9 to 5. It wasn't for me. Just wasn't for me. I just didn't fit in. So you pick yourself up and you keep going, But I remember when I got to about 27, my dad said to me, and I had nothing but support from my parents, support and money. They absolutely wanted me to do it. And my dad said, you're going to be 30 in a few years. Why don't you just think about singing on the cruises or something? At least you're singing. But to me, that was like a musical day job. That wasn't my music and my band, So I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't have got that break with Siren, but I did. And I like to think it's a testament to the sort of like perspiration, inspiration equation. I just didn't stop, just kept going. And thankfully, I can sing. It wasn't a baseless dream. I'm not falsely modest enough to say I didn't know if I could sing or not. I know I can sing, and I always could. I could harmonise with anything in an instant. So I knew I could sing. I just needed the chance.
And that stressful audition when he finally turned up, those songs that you performed were the backbone of what became Bridge of Spice? Pretty
much. What did we do? I think we did Monkey House and Thank You for Goodbye. And it was only like 4 songs because we didn't have time to learn to teach these guys that many songs. So I think it was pretty much a 25-minute audition or showcase, as they used to call it. But China in Your Hand, which of course is our biggest hit, wasn't written then, didn't get us our record deal. It was when we were in the studio with Roy, then he said one of the tracks wasn't working and we had to dump it because, you're on time and budget constraints. And he said, have you got another song? We're a song short. And Ronnie and I had begun to work on the track at home, and I had a rough piano vocal cassette.
Remember them well?
I brought it with me to keep working on it, And so we played Roy the cassette, and he just said, that is a fantastic song. And he turned it into the beast that it became. But China did not get us our deal.
I've actually going to say that, massive hit, 600th UK #1. I've done a bit of homework. But that album was packed full of hits. And actually, Heart and Soul was the one that actually cracked it over the other side of the pond, wasn't it?
Yeah, it did. Heart and Soul went to #4 in the Billboard chart and still gets played a lot in America. And when you have... Well, I can't speak for young careers now. I wouldn't know because it's all changed so much with streaming and the internet and YouTube stars. But in my day, if you got a hit in America, that jettisoned around the world. Everybody heard you, so that was super useful. And it had been a big flop in the UK.
The song itself was quite unique in terms of its composition and its style, not only for the era, but, compared to a lot of other things that have come before it.
Not a lot of people know I invented rap. But I don't like to be big-headed about it, Yeah, well, it got released in the UK and flopped completely. And the record company were going to dump us. And it was almost over before it began. But fortunately, the Americans loved it. So it went climbing up the US chart. And then there was a trendy jeans company called Pepe. Mm-hmm. And they picked it up for their cinema commercial campaign. So we got a reprieve. But it really was touch and go.
And when China in Your Hand happened, and as you said, describe it as a beast, you were on tour with Bryan Adams when that got to #1, weren't you?
Yeah, it was so funny.
What was the reaction like at that time?
Well, from Bryan, it was really peculiar because what you want in an opening act is a hot buzz about your opening act. So they're new, they're exciting, they're going to add to the ticket, but they're not going to eclipse you. You don't want that. So he was touring Into the Fire, which was not his most successful album. So as we went across Europe, we were going to #1 in all these places, and he wasn't. We were getting a bigger cheer than he was. He was quite grumpy about it.
Yeah, knocked to the ego, probably.
Well, I understand it now, all down the years. Now, of course, I understand it. If I was on tour and I had an opening act and they were doing better than I was, it's not what you want. You want them to add to your luster, not eclipse you. So, no, but he bought us champagne and he congratulated us all through very gritted teeth.
I read somewhere that you had as one of your aspirations from the early days of you singing that you wanted to be on Top of the Pops. What was it like when you actually got to perform for the first time on Top of the Pops?
I was like a cat that had the cream. I couldn't stop grinning. I think I needed to split my face in half. And it's a show that we all grew up with, it had been going since the 60s. And there weren't, this is before MTV or anything, so it was the one show. You know, the other shows came like the Roxy and Jules Holland and, you know, things like that, and the Old Grey Whistle Test. But they were more kind of specialised, whereas Top of the Pops was your general pop chart, wasn't it? Like, you know, mum, dad, granny and the kids, there's something in there for everybody. So it was the most important show in the land, it really was. And so I couldn't believe that I was there. Just couldn't. I was probably trying to kiss all the cameramen and, you know, kiss the floor, hug the cameras, everything. It was just amazing. And also, I have to say, you know, for anybody that I'd met in my life I've been told by people, do you know statistically the chances of you succeeding, you might as well just give up now. Some people actually said stuff like that to me. It's a pipe dream, it's ridiculous. And then, of course, there were a couple of girls at school who really bullied me. I got bullied by a few people. So I looked right down that camera lens, sort of, are you watching me now type thing. And it was a great validating moment for lots of different reasons.
And you can probably see your debut performance anytime soon, because I think 87 Top of the Pops is being repeated.
It was on the other night.
It was on the other night.
Because I got tweets and stuff. Listen to this, when you've listened to this interview, see if you can find it on YouTube. You could probably see me. I just can't get over myself.
I'm going to go back and watch it again now. Yeah. How much pressure was there to follow up on Heart and Soul and China in Your Hand after that, in terms of the popularity of those songs?
Oh, tons, you know, and once you've had a number one, you expect another one, and the record company everybody assumes you'll do it again, and you don't always, and we didn't, you know. Some people do. Like right now, I'll tell you who really annoys me is Jess Glynn, because clearly it's the law that everything she puts out has to go to number one. It would be illegal if it didn't. I'd love to have had that career. But I still had my shining moment with some amazing big hits, and I did go to number one for 5 weeks.
Yeah, it wasn't just a small number one, it was huge. 5 weeks is no mean feat even today. But
it would have been nice to do it again, but you can't grumble, really.
But actually the subsequent albums had really good stuff on it. You know, Rage and The Promise were great albums still, with some big singles on them. Yeah, well, Bridge of Spies was a quadruple platinum album, and Rage was a platinum album. You know, they don't make those sales anymore. And The Promise was gold. It went gold, top 10. So obviously the figures are decreasing, you know. But a gold album back in the early 90s is still more than what most people sell now, because it's all changed. Nobody buys records, they stream and they file share and all the rest of it, you know. So and musically, the music of T'Pau was, you know, evolving at the end of the 80s into the Stock Aitken Waterman domination, then into the 90s with another musical shift. So you were trying to take your style of music and transcend what was quite a quickly evolving musical era.
Definitely. I found the 90s really difficult because we emerged, we put Bridge of Spies and Rage out very quickly, and we weren't off the road for 2 years. And Ronnie and I had all of those songs written. So Ronnie and I had written the first 2 albums, and it's just a question of, you know, picking the singles, formatting it, and getting the tours organised. By the time it came to The Promise, we'd literally had no songs left, and we hadn't had any time to write any. So we went into the studio with the band and wrote collaboratively on the 3rd album, which was great. You know, it was nice to work as a team. I'm not greedy about songwriting at all. It's whatever makes it work. And so by the time we came out of our little kind of hole, like moles rubbing their eyes in 1991, it was like The Farm, The Stone Roses, all of those early 90s Happy Mondays. We were so irrelevant by the time we came out with our 3rd album, which frankly I love retrospectively. If you listen to The Promise, it's a really classy album and I'm very proud of it, but it just didn't fit. It didn't fit.
Okay, so let's fast forward a bit throughout the 90s, 2000s, and to today you've got new material released, and, you know, in this office, Run is an absolute tune. We have it on all the time.
Do you?
Yeah, all the
Thank you so much. I think I'm super proud of Run. Me and Ronnie wrote that with our keyboard player, Carsten Moss, and I just love it. I would love to have gotten some more radio play on it. I did hire a plugger and try, and they kept saying I was this close to getting up the playlist at Radio 2. I know, which sounds like old fart radio, doesn't it? And it looked promising for a while, and then somebody else will bring something out and you get pushed to the one side if they think... It's a committee of producers, and you have to have enough of a percentage of them on your side. Whereas, again, in my day, you'd get a DJ like Gary Davis or Simon Bates, and if he and his producer chose to pick your record and champion it and make it single of the week, you had someone on your side. They can't do that anymore. It's this committee of... So you can't you can't bribe anybody. It's really annoying.
So do you find you're now making music to satisfy yourself and the rest of the band?
Yes, we just do what we do and we just chuck it out. We put, the video for Run, my daughter filmed it in the field opposite our house and with all her art school and drama student friends, and I paid them in pizza.
Perfect.
But that's all, we don't have any money. We don't have big record company money anymore. So we did that, and it gave Scarlett an opportunity, because she's an animation student, to do some filming. It gave all her drama school student friends, it goes on their CV, so everybody sort of benefited from doing it. And it was great fun, and everybody was ballpark 19, so it kept me on my toes, which...
Literally running through the forest like that.
Literally. We went to Stoke Row. I don't know if anybody knows the village just outside Henley. Filmed in the woods there, and then we went into the fields opposite our house, which is up near Gillet's School in Henley. Just filmed, and these days you can just film on a phone. It looks fantastic, doesn't it? So yeah, I was really, really happy with it. And then we're just working on an EP now, and we just put it out and let you know it's out there. And I'm not going to chase the kind of radio thing anymore. I don't think there's any point, really, for us.
But you're still performing lots. You've got a concert in a couple of weeks down in Padworth at the Red Sky Festival.
Yeah,
and there's all of the retro 80s
Yeah,
festivals.
we go up to Hull and Newcastle at the end of May. We're doing the O2 up in Newcastle, and we've got lots of festivals all over the UK. I'm flying out to Dublin next week to do promotion for a big festival out there. So, yeah, loads and loads of stuff going on in the studio. I've got vocals to finish. Ronnie's nagging me to death. But I'm like most creative people, I will do anything but knuckle down to my work. I will plump cushions, decide something needs hoovering, decide I'm going to take up macrame because I'm trying to put off coming up with the lyrics.
Good luck getting macrame song. So do you think that the advancement of technology, and as you said, the filming of videos and things like that, is that one of the biggest differences to the music industry today compared to 30 years ago? Yeah,
we had a budget of hundreds of thousands for our videos. They were like small films, and they were fantastic. And like you talk about Heart and Soul, if you look at the video for Heart and Soul, there's back projection, there's me singing, there's me at the back. We did that at Pinewood, and the back projectionist was the guy who got the Oscar for Ben-Hur.
Wow.
So that's the size and the scale of how you did things. But now you can do it yourself very cheaply, and I think very effectively, especially if you've got a good eye. I think there's lots of great kids out there now.
So we discussed the EP, we've discussed the concerts, that's 2019 covered. Are you going to just carry on recording as long as you have the desire to do so?
Yes, basically. I don't have a sort of master plan. It's for as long as I enjoy it, and at the moment we're still coming up with things that we like doing, and I still get offered wonderful opportunities. Like I've just done a cameo appearance with Diane Morgan, who's a fantastic comedy actress. She's got a series coming out, so I've done a little cameo in that. I've turned into a quiz show.
We saw you on Pointless, yeah.
Well, I have won that with Paul Young. I've done Pointless 3 times, and I've Celebrity Master Chef. I did Mastermind. I filmed The Chase, and it's just given me just daft things to do, and I quite like having a laugh. If I'm in the mood for something, I'll say yes.
So you wait for Strictly to call.
They haven't yet.
Strictly, people, call.
Please, yeah.
Just to go back a bit, we're going to feature some of this interview in an 80s hour, which 2 of the Explorer girls are putting together with some of their favourite tunes. But what would make up a Carol Decker 80s mixtape or Spotify playlist?
Oh, I'm rubbish at answering things like this off the top of my head because I can never remember things. An 80s mixtape, okay, I would have to say definitely some Madonna, Cyndi Lauper. Probably some U2 would be in there, Simple Minds. British artists like The Pretenders, Orange Juice. I've got an eclectic taste. I like electropop through to big bombastic rock bands. I like the lot. So it would be very, very eclectic. But
and your kids force you to listen to the modern stuff? No,
my son loves the 80s. His favourite song is Hadaway, What Is Love at the moment.
Oh, wow, that's random.
Which is great.
That's great.
The production's amazing on it. Scarlett does one band at a time. So right now it's Muse. Before it was Keen, now it's Muse. And she's a bit kind of tunnel vision about what she's into. And she listens to nothing else but that. So she's been to see Muse about 3 times. She's going again. So
and then they'll be exhausted and it'll be moved on to the next one.
Then she'll move on to the next one, yeah.
That's all the questions I've got. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Would you mind just doing a bit of a Hi, this is Carol Decker, and you're listening to 3-6 Radio.
That's the idea, 3-6 Radio?
3-6 Radio, yeah.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Carol Decker from T'Pau, and you're listening to me on 3-6 Radio.